Yeah, very good afternoon to one and all.
నా దగ్గర అక్కడ
ప్రీతి సార్ రాలేరు ఇంకా సార్ రాలేరా?
రాలేదు. ఏంది స్విచ్ ఆఫ్ అని వస్తుంది.
ఎవరిది?
ఫోన్ చేసిన తర్వాత ఇంకా సరేలే అని నేను ఇంకా జాయిన్ అయ్యాను.
ఓకే ఓకే.
నా మాట వినిపిస్తుంది? హలో,
చెప్పు ప్రీతి.
స్నాక్స్ అయిందా క్లాసు?
అయిపోయింది.
అయ్యేనా లింకులు?
అవును, ముందు
ఫిజిక్స్ ఏందంట?
ఫిజిక్స్ ఏమో మరి ఎవరు విన్నారో ఎవరు వినలేరో తెలియదు నాకైతే అసలు. ఇంకా
అదే సార్ ఇంకా రాలేదు.
ఏదో లింక్ వచ్చింది ప్రాసెస్.
Yeah, very good afternoon to one and all.
గుడ్ ఆఫ్టర్నూన్ సార్.
సార్.
So I'll keep your phones in mute, all of you. Yeah, today we are going to discuss about the block 3. In this we have 3 topics: rock weathering, rock weathering, rivers, and groundwater. Yeah, so first let us discuss about the rock weathering. Okay. So rock weathering is a process of, I think we have textbooks, all of you. Yes. So rock weathering is a process of break and undergoes the decay under the
Sir, page
influence of,
number, sir, please, sir. Page number.
I think it is 56, 55 or 56. Actually, I don't have textbook. I think 55 rock weathering, black 3. Do you have textbook? Yes. దగ్గర టెక్స్ట్ బుక్ ఉంది అమ్మా
ఉంది సార్.
బ్లాక్
ఓకే
3
సార్. ఓకే సార్.
బ్లాక్ 355 I think.
ఓకే
Rock
సార్.
weathering. So in which yeah, but let me share the material which I have. Yeah. So here the rock weathering, you can see weathering is a process of breakdown. Are you able to see my view, my screen share? Physical or mechanical weathering. Screen share కనిపిస్తుందా మీకు అందరికి?
కనిపిస్తుంది సార్. కనిపిస్తుంది సార్.
Okay, right. Okay. So weathering means the rock break and undergo decay under the influence of the atmospheric agencies. So simply the concept is the rocks are breakdown or breaking of rocks into smaller particles. Okay. Weathering is a process of breakdown or breaking of rocks into smaller particles is known as weathering by the atmospheric agents. By the atmospheric agents. What are the atmospheric agents? Like wind, sun, frost, water, and other organisms. So these are called atmospheric agents. So the rocks are breaks into smaller particles with the influence of atmospheric agents, which are called weathering. So from this, it can produce this phenomena. Generally, weathering and erosion together lowers the mountains and produce sediments. So due to weathering, what happens? The mountains are produce sediments, so that the mountain size has been reduced. Okay, due to weathering is a process of breaking of rocks into smaller particles with the influence of the atmospheric agents such as sun, wind, frost, rainwater, and other organisms, means any plants and animal organisms. So with the help of these influence, the rocks are breaking into smaller particles, which are called weathering. Okay. The concept is weathering is a process of breaking of rocks into smaller particles with the help of atmospheric agents like wind, sun, water, frost, and other organisms, which includes plants and animals. This phenomena is known as weathering or rock weathering. Okay. So when this weathering and erosion as we know, transportation of loose sediments or loose particles from one place to another place, from highly elevated areas to low-lying areas, is called erosion. So these weathering and erosion together lowers the mountains. Lowers the means it reduces the height of the mountains. Due to weathering and erosion, the height of the mountain is going to be reduced. The mountains and produce sediments. So due to weathering, the sediments are resulted. Sediments means particles. Sediments means particles. Due to weathering, the weathered products in the sense of a smaller particles are going to be resulted from these areas, and the weathering may be defined as a process which tends to break and decompose rocks in a place. So in terms of weathering, we can define as a process which tends to break and decompose. So the rock is subjected to undergoes to the breaking or decompose rocks in the place. So it includes two processes. So this is disintegration and physical breaking. So it means the rocks either it may be going to break down or it may be decompose. So in terms of it is includes there are weathering is broadly classified as two process, that is physical weathering and chemical weathering. Physical weathering also known as mechanical weathering. This is our topic as we see in the physical or mechanical weathering. Weathering is two types. One is physical weathering and another one is chemical weathering. Physical weathering is also known as mechanical weathering, also known as disintegration. These are the similar words. Physical weathering, also known as mechanical weathering, also known as disintegration. Disintegration means disintegration అంటే విచ్ఛిత్తి కావడం, వినాశనం అంటే విచ్ఛిత్తి గురి కావడాన్ని డిసింటిగ్రేషన్ అంటాం. Physical or mechanical. So here generally in physical or mechanical weathering, so when a rock undergoes a mechanical weathering, it is broken up into smaller fragments, each containing the characteristic of the original matter. So this mechanical weathering is a breaking up of rocks containing the characteristic of the original matter or expose the additional fresh surfaces to water and air. So here when the rock is undergoes to the mechanical weathering or physical weathering, it is broken up into smaller fragments. When the rock is exposed or undergoes to the mechanical weathering or physical weathering, it is broken up into smaller fragments. Fragments means pieces. It is broken up into smaller fragments, each containing the characteristic of the original matter. ప్రతి పీస్ ఏముంటుంది, ఒరిజినల్ మ్యాటర్ పోలి ఉంటుంది. ఎందుకు? ఇట్ ఈస్ ద రిజల్ట్ ఆఫ్ మెయిన్ మాస్ అనా కదా. ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ వీ కెన్ సీ ద హ్యూజ్ మౌంటైన్. పెద్దగా ఉన్నటువంటి ఒక మౌంటైన్ చూడండి. మౌంటైన్ పైన మనకు వీ కెన్ సీ సమ్ ఫ్రాగ్మెంట్స్, అక్కడక్కడ చిన్న చిన్న రాతి ముక్కలు, శిలా ముక్కలు కనబడుతూ ఉంటాయి. సో దీస్ ఆర్ ద స్మాలర్ పార్టికల్స్. Due to weathering, that huge mountain or hilly like region areas, when they are exposed to the atmospheric pressure, it is going to be break down the outer surfaces, which is going to expose to their surfaces. Their surfaces are going to be break down into smaller particles. So these smaller particles, which are similar to the character, containing the characteristic of the original matter. Original matter means huge mass. Original matter ni poli ఉంటుంది. Why? Because it is detached from the main mass. Okay. Original matter. This mechanical breaking up of rocks exposes a additional fresh surfaces. So when this mechanical breaking of a rocks, it exposes additional fresh surfaces to water and air. Therefore, the disintegration aids a decomposition of the chemical alteration of the rock material. Yes. So on this other hand, we can also define this: a chemical changes are directly responsible for the mechanical disturbances which has been on a large scale. Normally, both phases of weathering, which is going to be hand to the same time. In nature, the four important factors of physical processes will lead to a fragmentation of rocks. These are frost action, temperature effects, mechanical effects of animals and plants, and gravity. Physical weathering, again, there are it classified as mostly they are of different types. These are mostly frost action, temperature effects, mechanical effects of animals and plants, and gravity. So the physical weathering, again, it is classified into four types. One is frost action, another one is mechanical effects of animals and plants, temperature effects, and gravity. Physical weathering, so due to when the rock is a breakdown of mechanical influences. When the rock is subjected to undergoes to mechanical breaking up. So when it is mechanically breaking up, mechanical means physical parameters. Yes. So these physical parameters when act on this rock and lead to breakdown, which are called physical or mechanical weathering. So this physical weathering or mechanical weathering, again it has classified into 4 types. They are frost action, temperature effects, mechanical effects of animals and plants, and gravity. So from these 4 effects, physical weathering is occurred. Let us see the first one, the frost action or wedge work of ice. Frost action or wedge work of ice. So here generally in the frost action, when the water entering in the cracks and other original planes, generally like joints and bedding planes, freezes and the ways which has been thus as freezing continues, size increases. So it exists a pressure of the surrounding rocks and causes damage on mountain tops. So during the daytime, as we know, the temperature may reach up to 120 Fahrenheit and more, and the rocks may becomes a distinctly warm or even hot. But at night, the temperature may drop the below freezing point. So under such conditions, the disintegration is most effective. The most severed fragments fall to lower levels, which has and accumulates. This is a frost action. So simply, just you can try to understand when the mountain regions or highly elevated regions or any exposure rocks. Exposure rocks means which is exposed on the earth surface. So అంటే బయటికి కనపడే వాటిని మనం ఎక్స్పోజర్స్ అంటాం. So whatever the rocks which are exhibiting on the earth surface, so which are called exposures. సో అంటే మన కంటికి భూమి యొక్క ఉపరితలం పైన కనిపించేటటువంటి శిలల్ని మనం అవుట్ క్రాప్స్ అంటాం, ఎక్స్పోజర్స్ అంటాం. ఓకే. సో when these rocks, so whatever the exposures which are going to expose to the atmospheric agents, generally it may get fractures. Okay, it may get fractures. So when it's raining, these fractures are filled by the rainwater. Understand? Any fracture, so due to fluctuations in the temperature, generally fractures occurred. So these fractures are filled with the rainwater. So when it's filled with the rainwater during the daytime, the temperature is very high, up to 120 Fahrenheit. So temperature is very, very high. And when it comes to night time, temperature fall down very lower levels up to freezing level. Freezing means gadda kattadam, up to freezes. Okay. So when these cracks are filled by rainwater, when it comes to night time, so that water is going to freezes. So generally the liquid state to solid state, when the liquid state is going to convert into solid state, the volume is increase. Understand? Volume is increase from liquid to solid. Generally the volume up to 10 to 12% volume is increase. So when the volume is increased, what happen? These cracks are gradually widening. These cracks are gradually widening. So when these cracks are widening, ultimately what happens? Whatever the cracks which are going to be seen, so these cracks are gradually widening, and the cracks has been widely distributed so that the small rock piece has been developed from the main rock. Understand? So it means from the main mass, from the main rock, the rock fragment has been resulted or detached from the main mass. So it means what happened? Rock has breakdown. So rock has broken up so that the small rock pieces or fragments has resulted. So if it is physically influences, the physical influences which makes the rocks into smaller particles is called as physical weathering. So in this frost action, frosting means, so when these cracks whatever the cracks which is appeared, the rocks are subjected to having of cracks. Then these cracks are filled by rainwater, and that rainwater, when it's night time, when temperature is very lower levels up to freezing levels, then rainwater is going to subjected to freezing. Means rainwater is a liquid state. So from this state to in the during night time, what's happened again? Freezing means volume is increased from liquid state to solid state. Volume is increased. So when its volume is increasing, ultimately what happened? The crack has widening. Cracks has widening. So when the crack has widening, ultimately it is gradually widening, and this widening up to it has been detached from the main mass or main rock, so that the small rock pieces has been produced from the main mass or main rock. So this is called a frost action. This is called frost action. You might have observed in your surroundings, hilly-like regions or mountains or hills. You may see అక్కడ మన చుట్టుపక్కల ఉన్నటువంటి గుట్టల గిట్టలు పరిశీలించినట్లయితే ఏం కనిపిస్తుంది మనకు అక్కడ గుట్ట పైన చాలా రకాల డిఫరెంట్ టైప్ ఆఫ్ రాక్ పీసెస్ విచ్ ఆర్ దేర్ ఆన్ ది మౌంటైన్. అవన్నీ ఎక్కడ నుంచి ఏర్పడ్డాయి? మౌంటైన్స్ లో పగుళ్ళు ఏర్పడే పగుళ్ళు రెయిన్ వాటర్ అండ్ ఆఫ్టర్ దిస్ ఫ్రీజింగ్ ఆ పగులన్నీ క్రమక్రమంగా పెట్టే ఏమైతాయి? ఒక పెద్ద బ్లాక్ అక్కడ నుంచి ఒక చిన్న రాక్ మాసెస్ అనేది రాక్ పీస్ అనేది మెయిన్ హిల్లీ రీజియన్ నుంచి ఏమవుతుంది? అది వేరుపడి ఇట్ ఈస్ రెడీ టు రోల్ డౌన్ టు ది లోయర్ లెవెల్స్ ఆర్ ద ఫుట్ హిల్స్. అవునా కదా? So, and also you might have seen there are so much of fragments which already rolled in the foothills of the mountain. So in this action, with this action of atmospheric agents, if the weathering is occurred, such type of weathering is called as frost action. Then second one, let us see the same thing. We are going to see that which has been a effects of changing temperature. Second one, effects of changing temperatures. As we know, in desert or semi-arid regions and mostly in the monsoon lands, with the most of the temperature and cool to very low temperature levels. As we know, effects of changing of temperature, mostly in desert regions and in ఎడారి ప్రాంతాలలో, in desert regions or semi-arid regions, బాగా శుష్క ప్రాంతాలలో semi-arid regions and monsoon lands with a marked dry season. Monsoon land means they are mostly a dry seasons. The rocks are heated by mostly the scorching sun in the midday to a very high temperatures and cooled to a very low temperature during nights. Since the rocks are poor conductors of heat, only the outer layers of the rocks are affected due to alternate heating and cooling. Yes, and so in course of time they get detached from the main mass of the rock. So these thin weathering from massive rocks such as granite or basalts is known as exfoliation. So this type of rock mass we can see from the effects of changing of temperatures. Oh, see here, generally the effects of changing of temperature, mostly we can see where during the daytime the temperature is very high, whereas during the night time temperature is very low. It means the rocks are subjected to change. Its regular fluctuations in temperature. As we know, when these exposures are affected to the regular temperature, the temperature very high during the midday and very low in the midnight. Yes, midday and midnight. Have you see the temperature is highly variations during the midday, high temperature mostly in desert regions. Yes, ఎడారి ప్రాంతాల్లో generally the temperature is very high. During the midday it's too high. Yes, try to understand the concept. So in the arid regions or dry regions or in desert regions, so whatever the rocks, they are highly exposed to the temperature during the midday, and they are also the daytime. During the night time, the temperature is very low. So the changing in the temperature, high fluctuations, very low temperature and very high temperature. Yes, here which is going to be seen very clearly, whatever the fragments or whatever the situations which are going to be taken place, it is very clearly seen that whatever the things which are going to be seen, is it audible to you? Yes, is it audible to you? Is it audible to you?
Sir,
Inpistunamma?
yes, sir, interesting.
Okay, right. So here, generally, whatever the fluctuations in the temperature during the daytime and during the night time, so these are mostly, we can see the rocks are gets fractured. When these rocks are gets fractured, automatically, uh, as we know, the rocks are very poor conductive of temperature. So temperature పెద్ద ఎక్కువగా కండక్టివ్ ఉండదు. అటు నుంచి ప్రయాణించే ధర్మం అనే క్యారెక్టర్ అనేది రాక్స్ ఉండదు కాబట్టి ఏమైతుంది, ఓన్లీ అవుటర్ సర్ఫేస్ ఏమవుతుంది, అవుటర్ సర్ఫేస్ ఓన్లీ ఎఫెక్ట్ అవుతుంది. అంటే రాక్ ఉన్నటువంటి బయటి పొర ఉంటుంది కదా, outer layer only it is exposed and affected by the temperature. సో ఈ హై టెంపరేచర్ అండ్ లో టెంపరేచర్ బాగా ఇది మాత్రం ఎఫెక్ట్, అవుటర్ సర్ఫేస్ మాత్రం అవుటర్ లేయర్ మాత్రమే ఎఫెక్ట్ కావడం వల్ల ఏమవుతుంది, ఓన్లీ దట్ అవుటర్ లేయర్ హ్యాస్ బీన్ డిటాచ్డ్ ఫ్రమ్ ది మెయిన్ రాక్. Why? Because the temperature is not much enter into the rock లోపలికి ఎక్కువ హీట్ కాదు, ఎక్కువ ఎంటర్ కాదు. Why? Because it's very hard. రాక్స్ అనేది టూ హార్డ్ కాబట్టి టెంపరేచర్ లోపలికి ఎక్కువ పాస్ కాక ఓన్లీ అవుటర్ లేయర్ ఆర్ అవుటర్ సర్ఫేస్ ఓన్లీ ఎఫెక్టెడ్ టు ది టెంపరేచర్, సో దట్ అవుటర్ లేయర్ ఓన్లీ ఇట్ హాస్ బీన్ డిటాచ్డ్ ఫ్రమ్ ది మెయిన్ రాక్. ఓకే, అవుటర్ లేయర్ మాత్రమే ఎఫెక్ట్ కావడం వల్ల దట్ లేయర్ అవుటర్ లేయర్ ఓన్లీ ఇట్ హాస్ బీన్ డిటాచ్డ్ అంటే ఏంది, ఆ మెయిన్ రాక్ నుంచి వదిలి రావడం, మెయిన్ రాక్ నుంచి వదిలిపెట్టి బయటికి రావడాన్ని లేదా పక్కకు జరగడాన్ని మనం డిటాచింగ్ అంటాం. అటాచ్మెంట్ కోల్పోద్ది అన్నట్టు. సో దట్ అవుటర్ సర్ఫేస్, సో మోస్ట్లీ ద గ్రానైట్స్ అండ్ బసాల్ట్ రాక్స్ యాజ్ వి నో, దట్స్ వై మోస్ట్ ఆఫ్ ద మౌంటైన్స్ మనకు చుట్టుపక్కల ఉన్నటువంటి సరౌండింగ్స్ చూస్తే, సరౌండింగ్ హిల్లీ రీజన్ చూస్తే మనకు ఆల్మోస్ట్ గుండ్రంగా అవపడుతుంది. అవునా కదా? ఎందుకు గుండ్రంగా అవపడుతుంది అంటే ఏంది, వాట్ ఎవర్ ద అవుటర్ సర్ఫేస్ అన్ని కూడా ఎక్స్పోజ్ అవుతూ అవి వెదరింగ్ గురి కావడం వల్ల దట్ హిల్ బికమ్స్ రౌండ్ ఇన్ షేప్, చాలా గుండ్రంగా కనపడతా ఉంటుంది. సో దిస్ టైప్ ఆఫ్ వెదరింగ్ వీ కెన్ కాల్ ఇట్ యాజ్ ఎక్స్పోలియేషన్. దీన్ని మనం ఏమంటాం, ఎక్స్పోలియేషన్ అంటాం. సో ద ఎక్స్పోలియేషన్ ఇస్ ద ప్రాసెస్ ఆఫ్ డిటాచింగ్ ద లేయర్స్ ఫ్రమ్ ది మెయిన్ రాక్. ఈ రకంగా ఒక లేయర్ లేచిపోగానే ఏమైతే రిమైనింగ్ మెయిన్ రాక్ ఉంటుంది కదా, మెయిన్ రాక్ మళ్ళీ లేయర్ అయిపోగానే ఇంకో లేయర్ ఇట్ ఈస్ గోయింగ్ టు ఎక్స్పోజ్ టు ది అట్మాస్ఫియర్. మళ్ళీ ఆ లేయర్ లో ఏమవుతుంది, టెంపరేచర్ కి ఎఫెక్ట్ అయ్యి అవుటర్ లేయర్ అనేది మళ్ళీ ఇట్ హాస్ బీన్ రిమూవ్ ఫ్రమ్ ది మెయిన్ రాక్. అగైన్ అనదర్ లేయర్ లైక్ దిస్, జస్ట్ లైక్ ఏ ఆనియన్ లో లేయర్స్ ఉంటుంది కదా, ఒక లేయర్ తీసేస్తే ఇంకో లేయర్ వస్తుంది. అట్లనే ఇట్ బికమ్స్ the main rock becomes it has been layered nature. Layers are removed from the main rock from the when it is going to expose to the high fluctuations of temperature, mostly in the arid regions or dry regions or dry areas or semi-arid regions. So these such type of high fluctuation, changing in temperature, high temperature and low temperature, the rocks got the layers are have been detached from the main rock. So this type of weathering also we can call it as exfoliation. Short question lo baga adugutundi. What does it mean by exfoliation? So exfoliation is the process of the layers of main rock is going to be removing or detached from the main rock is known as exfoliation due to the temperature changes, due to the changing in temperature. So which are called mostly such type of weathering we can see in the exfoliation. And exfoliation, which has been seen, the process of exfoliation results the formation of a rounded mass of rock, which is called a spheroidal weathering. ఇందులో దిస్ ప్రాసెస్ అంటే ఈ రకంగా లేయర్లా విడిపోవడాన్ని లేయర్ విడిపోయే విధానాన్ని ఏమంటాం? దిస్ ప్రాసెస్ వీ కెన్ కాల్ ఇట్ యాస్ ఎక్స్ఫోలియేషన్ అంటాం. సో డ్యూ టు దిస్ ఎక్స్ఫోలియేషన్ ద మెయిన్ రాక్ exfoliation results this exfoliation process results the formation of a rounded mass. సో దీనివల్ల ఏమవుతుంది? రిమైనింగ్ ఉన్న మెయిన్ రాక్ ఏమైతే రౌండ్ షేప్ లో మారుతుంది. రౌండ్ షేప్ అంటే ఏదైతే యాంగులర్ గా ఉన్న కొన్ని షార్ప్ ఎడ్జెస్ ఉన్న అవన్నీ ఏమైతే డ్యూ టు టెంపరేచర్ ఎఫెక్ట్స్ వల్ల ఇట్ హాస్ బీన్ రిమూవ్ ఫ్రమ్ ది మెయిన్ రాక్. అట్లా అన్ని విడిపోవడం వల్ల మెయిన్ రాక్ నుంచి ఏమైతే ద రిమైనింగ్ మౌంటైన్ ఆర్ రిమైనింగ్ హిల్లీ రీజియన్ బికమ్స్ రౌండ్ ఇన్ షేప్. So this nature or this phenomena is also known as spheroidal weathering. ఇలా weathering కావడాన్ని ఏమంటాం మనం? We can call it as spheroidal weathering అంటాం. So due to exfoliation process, the rock or main rock becomes rounded in nature, round in shape. So rounded masses of rocks, so which are called spheroidal weathering. So and the rounded mass of rocks are called mostly residual boulders. So whatever the rounded masses of rocks are called residual boulders అంటాం వీటిని. So in which way generally mostly the which has because Mozambique and the other parts of the African and another parts of the areas wherever the different parts of areas it has been best example to show such type of weathering offered by the sugar loaf hills in the Rio Janeiro and etc. areas. You can see such type of processes where it has been exposed by the different types of temperatures. Okay, next third one, mechanical work of plants and animals. Mechanical works of plants and animals. As we know, the mechanical work of plants and animals. So here generally the mechanical work of plants and animals also highly influence the physical weathering. See, the growing rootlets of plants, and trees, they are going to exert in almost incredible pressure as they work down into cracks, and they are cracks mostly these cracks are mostly a widened, which is going to be action by expansion during the growth, and wedges of rocks are forcefully. So here most of the, as we know, this is very good example which we have observed in our surroundings. So plants, mostly the plants roots, the roots of the plants are growing and they are going to penetrate into the rocks. Yes, the plant roots are penetrating into the cracks of rocks, so that the cracks are widening as the pressure of roots which are going to expansioning on the rocks, so that the rocks cracks has been widening, and so that rocks it is going to be weathering. So when these phenomena, or whatever the plant's roots which are going to be where you can see the plant roots which are going to penetrating or widespread into the cracks of plant, widespread into the cracks of rocks, so that the fractures are going to be removed. So in which way the huge rocks are which are going to be penetrated and affected by the pressure of roots, so that it has been split into the, or they are going to break down into smaller particles. This is by plants. So as we can see, you might have observed in our surroundings, just compound walls are going to be getting fractures. So these compound walls are going to be fractures where it is going to be seen how the roots which is going to penetrate into the walls, so that the fractures has been widely widening, So it has been resulted a small masses or mass of rocks, where it has going to be rock pieces which are going to be results, and so that the things which are going to be where the process are widely taken place, so that the fractures has widely developed, and so that it has going to be reduced a small rock masses, and it has been resulted in the various cases, so that the finally the rock masses which has been resulted, and these rock masses which has um, flowing in the various aspect which are going to be seen in the various finally the rocks are produced in the small mountains. As we know, the compound, how the your home's compound walls are going to be fractured, and finally they are going to result into the a breakdown due to the tree roots which is going to penetrate into the compound walls, and during span of time these compound walls getting fractures. Yes, so due to this, which has been widely distributed these fractures, which is going to be a variation in on these rocks. Okay, this is about the mechanical plants, and let us see the mechanical action of the animals. As we know, most of the rocks, as the earthworms, the rodents, as we see, the such type of rodents and earthworms, mostly they are burrowing the animals. Some of the animals are there burrowing the soil. Yes, a large and small earthworms and rodents play an important part in the preparing a material for a removal of soil, removal by rain and wash and wind. So they are bringing large quantities of party decayed rocks. Mostly they are going to be decaying the rocks, fragments which are going to be results. As we know, the plants of all the kinds of life and fungi and lichens and contributes a chemical which is going to be seen. So as we know, the some of the animals, microbes mostly, the microorganisms which are going to be act on the plant, act on the in the earth crust mostly. They are burrowing in the soils. Like that, some are going to be emphasizing which are emphasizing on the rocks, and so that due to their reaction of burrowing of soils and sediments and rocks, the rocks are resulted into smaller particles. So this is a mechanical work of plants and animals. So with the help of plants and animals, which are called comes under organisms. So these effects of plants and animals, mostly they are highly affected by the plants, so that the concept is due to the plants, the roots penetrate into the rocks are subjected to breakdown, and the animals, mostly the earthworms and other rodents, which are going to be makes the rocks into smaller particles. So this is a variation which we are going to observe in the all the aspect. Mostly they are going to be same. This is a mechanical work of plants and animals. Then coming to see the last one, action of gravity. Action of gravity. You see the action of gravity. So here mostly gravity helps in the removal of products of weathering. So the gravity helps in the removal of products of weathering, thereby exposing a fresh surfaces of rocks for further weathering. It is generally removes by a slow downward movement, removes by a slow downward movement of the loosened rock debris. In steep mountain valleys, weathered products tend to fall down by gravity and accumulate at the base of mountain. Such accumulations of the rock fragments and dislodged from the cliffs by weathering and deposited by are known as a talus. Deposited below are known as talus. This slope of talus is generally about 25 to 30 degrees centigrade. 25 to 30 degrees. So this is what you can call it as a action of gravity. So as we know, each and every whatever the fragments on the soil, fragments on the earth, which have fall down, they are going to be low. They are going to be fall down to the lower levels. Yes. So here, due to the action of gravity, whatever the accumulated rocks or whatever are the fragments which has resulted or the debris which are going to be seen. So these are going to be seen where yeah. So the gravity can helps the removal of products, whatever the weathered products. If these weathered products are not removed from there where it has been originally weathered, then remaining rest of the portion will not expose to the atmospheric agents. So when these weathered products are removed from there, the place of where they are breakdown, if they are not removed from there, then if they are removed due to the gravitational, these weathered products are removed from there to the low lying to the towards downward streams or downward areas, the next portion will be exposed to atmospheric agents, and then it lead to weathering. So it means due to the gravitation, as we've seen, this weathered debris material or weathered material which has been rolled down and fall down to the low-lying areas or towards downward movement to the foothills of mountain, and they are accumulated, and these are accumulated, we can call it these deposits are below the weathering process or below the mountain regions, we can call it as talus. So this talus mostly this slope of talus which is going to be seen very clearly up to the talus is generally about 25 to 30 degrees centigrades they are maintaining. So they are going to be deposited. They are going to deposit and accumulate and deposited in the low-lying areas or a downward stream or downward movement of the hilly region areas. We can see, for example, we can see in the mountain regions uh, where you can see some of the mountain just in the surrounding your or when you are traveling somewhere else, you can see the huge hilly like mountains or mountains. So ఈ mountains లో మనం చూస్తే ఏమంటే పర్వతాలలో బాగా there are different type of rock fragments. Some are stay there where the slope is very low, and these fragments are stay there in the mountains. Some are stay in the middle of the slope of the mountain, and some of the fragments are completely rolled in the mountain edges. Yes, or means foothills of mountains. అవునా కదా? అంటే see, due to the gravitation, అంటే when these weathered fragments from the mountain weathered and శైథిల్యం చెందిన తర్వాత ఏమైతే ఆటోమేటిక్గా వాట్ ఎవర్ ద రాక్ ఫ్రాగ్మెంట్స్ ఇన్ ద హిల్లీ రైక్ రీజియన్, ఆ పర్వతం పైన ఉన్నటువంటి శిలాముక్కలు ఉంటాయి కదా, సో దీస్ రాక్ ఫ్రాగ్మెంట్స్ ఇట్ హాస్ డ్యూ టు ది గ్రావిటేషన్, గురుత్వాకర్షణ శక్తి వల్ల ఏమైతే ఆటోమేటిక్గా దే ఆర్ travel towards downward movement. Yes, so in this downward movement, so they are going to be transferred into they are going to be transported or towards downward movement to the up to the foothills of the mountains, and some are stay in this some low lying areas or at some slopes up to 25 to 30 degree slope they are staying, and this is accumulation or deposition, you can call it as talus. It is about 25 to 30 degrees centigrades. సో మన చుట్టూ ఉన్నటువంటి పర్వతాలు కానీ గుట్టలు కానీ పరిశీలించినట్లయితే అక్కడ వెదర్డ్ ప్రోడక్ట్స్ అంటే చిన్న చిన్న రాతి మొక్కలు శిలా మొక్కలు అన్ని కూడా వేరియస్ సైజులో మనకు సమార్ స్టే ఇన్ ది మౌంటైన్, కొన్ని పర్వతం పైన ఉంటాయి, కొన్ని పర్వతం యొక్క వాలు భాగాలలో ఉంటాయి, కొన్ని పర్వతం యొక్క అంచులో లేదా అడుగు భాగంలో ఉండాలని మనం పరిశీలించవచ్చు. అవునా కదా? అంటే దీస్ ఆర్ డిఫరెంట్ టైప్ ఆఫ్ అక్యుములేషన్స్ అండ్ డిఫరెంట్ టైప్ ఆఫ్ మౌంటైన్ ప్రోడక్ట్స్ విచ్ ఆర్ గోయింగ్ టు బి దేర్. So when due to the gravitation they are rolled away or they are slow downward movements to the mountain. So in which way we can see the various products which are going to be resulted from the mountain. So due to this is a gravity. This is gravity. So here there are 4 types physical weathering. What are the 4 types? Frost action, changes in the temperature. Third one is mechanical work of plants and animals, and fourth one is gravitation, due to gravitation. These are the 4 activities or 4 atmospheric agents which lead to which are going to be influences the physical weathering. So physical weathering is a weathering when the rocks are exposed to the physical factors, mechanical factors, so which are called physical weathering or mechanical weathering or disintegration. So physical weathering is occurred by 4 types. They are frost action, changes in temperature. Then third one is mechanical work of plants and animals, and fourth one is action of gravity due to gravitational activity. Okay, let's see chemical weathering, second type. This is chemical weathering. You see, the chemical weathering generally, the chemical weathering involves the complex process that alter the internal structures, that alters the internal structure of the minerals by removing or adding elements. See, chemical weathering, it involves the complex process that alter the internal structure of a minerals. So this chemical weathering, it alters the internal structure of minerals by removing or adding of elements. So it is a complex process. Chemical weathering is a complex process that involves in the alters the internal structure. It is going to change in the internal structure of the minerals by removing or adding of elements. అంటే మినరల్స్ లో ఖనిజాలలో ఉన్నటువంటి ఎలిమెంట్స్ ని విచ్ ఆర్ గోయింగ్ బై రిమూవింగ్ అంటే తీసివేయడం ద్వారా కానీ లేదా ఎడిషన్ చేయడం ద్వారా కానీ ఇట్ కెన్ బి కెమికల్ వెదరింగ్ కెన్ బి అకర్డ్. సో ఇట్ ఈస్ ఎ కాంప్లెక్స్ ప్రాసెస్. ఇట్ ఈస్ ఇన్వాల్వ్స్ టు ఆల్టర్ ద ఇంటర్నల్ స్ట్రక్చర్ ఆఫ్ ఎ మినరల్స్ యొక్క ఇంటర్నల్ స్ట్రక్చర్ ని చేంజ్ చేస్తుంది. హౌ? బై రిమూవింగ్ ఎలిమెంట్స్ ఆర్ బై adding elements. Okay, so during this transformation, the origin of rock decomposes into new substances which is balanced with the surface environments consequently. So the products of chemical weathering will remain unchanged. The products of chemical weathering will remain unchanged as long as they results in their new environments. So water is the most important agent of chemical weathering. Water is the most important agent of chemical weathering. So the major processes by which water decomposes rock is solution, oxidation, and hydration. Solution, oxidation, and dehydration. So these are the things which are going to be highly affects the temperature, where it is going to be seen very clearly. See, in this process, chemical weathering, so mostly what is the essential element, what is the essential factor? As we know, this is mostly influence the chemical weathering, and it decomposes the rocks. It is by solution, by oxidation, and hydrolysis. So they act as carrier of the dissolved oxygen and carbon dioxide together with various acids and organic compounds are going to be derived. So the degree of decay of decomposition depends upon the composition and concentration of solutions, so formed on the temperature and the pressure of bacteria and other substances taken into solution from the decomposed products. So the chief changes that occur in the chemical weathering are solution, oxidation, and hydration. The chemical weathering is mostly occurred by the solution, oxidation, hydration, and carbonation. So it means weathering. So chemical weathering is also occurred by 4 processes. They are solution, oxidation, hydration, and carbonation. Only a few common minerals resist decomposition, like resist the very few common minerals which are going to resist the decomposition. They are quartz, muscovite is being the notable examples for the which are going to be resist the chemical weathering process. Yes. So here the chemical weathering, it is mostly it is a complex process. As we know, chemical weathering is a complex process. In this complex process, it alters the internal structure. Chemical weathering mostly ఏం మారుతుంది? Internal structure of the mineral యొక్క internal structure మారుతుంది. How? By changing and addition, by removing and adding of the elements. సో ఆ మినరల్ కి కొన్ని ఎలిమెంట్స్ ని యాడ్ చేయడం ద్వారా కానీ లేదా కొన్ని ఎలిమెంట్స్ ని మినరల్ నుంచి తీసేయడం ద్వారా కానీ ఆటోమేటిక్గా ఏమవుతుంది? ఇంటర్నల్ స్ట్రక్చర్ ఆఫ్ ఏ మినరల్ కెన్ బి చేంజ్. So in which the water is a cheapest source of chemical weathering. What is the main and cheap source for the chemical weathering? So in which mostly the cheap process of chemical weathering are mostly four types: solution, oxidation, hydration, and carbonation. In these four processes, chemical weathering can be occurred. See the solution: carbon dioxide. So generally the carbon dioxide dissolved in water from the carbon dioxide mostly dissolved from the water. So in which way generally what happens? Generally dissolved from water from carbonate acids and H2HO4 to water with a dissolved carbon dioxide, and which can be percolates into the cracks and crevasse of rocks, which is going to be attacks them to the scribble ways. In limestones are best example for the attacking such type of uh, chemical reactions. I will see this mostly why, because limestones are having the chemical composition is CaCO3. సో CaCO3కి ప్లస్ H2O యాడ్ అయింది చూడండి ఇక్కడ. కాల్షియం కార్బోనేట్కి H2O యాడ్గా H2O ప్లస్ కార్బన్ డైఆక్సైడ్ యాడ్ కావడం వల్ల ఏమైంది? సో కాల్షియం బైకార్బోనేట్స్ అని. సో ఇన్ లైక్ వైజ్ the limestone rock is going to be changed, weathered. As this is mostly we can see in the terra rosa and karst topography and clay with the flints, which are going to result very clearly. In chalklands, mostly they are going to be example of the residual deposits by chemical weathering. Then second one, oxidation. So in this process, water with dissolved oxygen, oxidation oxygen, water with dissolved oxygen acts as an agent of decomposition. So water dissolved oxygen ఉండడం వల్ల it can be effects on the rocks, mostly iron minerals. ఐరన్ కి ఏముంటది? కెమికల్ డీకాంపోజ్ చేసి, అవునా? ఈవెన్ మనకు ఐరన్ రావడం బయట టెంపరేచర్ బయట అవుట్ సైడ్ ఎన్విరాన్మెంట్ లో వేసినాం అనుకోండి, after 6 months go and see what it happens. You may found the rust. అది ఐరన్ కూడా ఏమైతే తుప్పు పెట్టి మనకు పౌడర్ లాగా రిలీజ్ కాదు, డ్యూ టు ఆక్సిడేషన్. అంటే రెయిన్ వాటర్ లో కానీ వాటర్ ఆక్సిజన్ డిజాల్వ్ అయ్యి దట్ ఆక్సిజన్ విల్ బి రియాక్ట్ విత్ ది ఐరన్ మినరల్స్ ఇన్ రాక్స్ అండ్ ఆర్ ఈజీలీ అటాక్డ్ ఫర్ ది సచ్ టైప్ ఆఫ్ ఆక్సిడేషన్. ఆక్సిడేషన్ రిలీజ్ అవడం వల్ల ఐరన్ మొత్తం ఏమవుతుంది? తుప్పు పట్టిపోయి it has been different small powder laga release అవుతా ఉంటుంది. So this is due to chemical weathering by oxidation method. Then third one, hydration. See this, in this hydration method, this process involves a chemical addition of water. Hydration is the adding of water, addition of water to certain minerals of rocks to from new minerals which are cheaply hydrous oxides. Mostly, so see the example, kaolin minerals, mostly which is going to be continental rocks, granites, and decomposed and converted largely to kaolin to principal mineral in the clay. So for example, whatever the granite minerals, which are granite rock, which are consisting the several types of minerals, quartz and feldspars, I will see. So hydration, addition of hydrogen, addition of water. So this is KALSI through it is the potash K feldspar composition. So when it's adding by when it's adding by water, and it is going to be become as a kaolin minerals, so clay minerals. So potash feldspar, carbonic acid, water, kaolin, which are going to result in the hydration process. Next, carbonation, adding of carbon dioxide. So another process of decomposition is carbonation, by which carbon dioxide is added to the a certain basis, particularly to oxides of calcium, magnesium, oxides of magnesium, oxides of sodium and potassium, and there are carbonates which are going to form, and the carbonates and bicarbonates are the metals are going to form. So in this way, chemical weathering అంటే కెమికల్ గా కాంపోజిషన్ వేరు, కాంపోజిషన్ అంటే దాని యొక్క రసాయన సంఘటన. డీకాంపోజిషన్ అంటే ఏంది? దానిలో రసాయనిక సంఘటనలు విడిపోవడం. డీకాంపోజిషన్ మీన్స్ రసాయనిక సంఘటన విడగొట్టబడడం. హౌ? By solution, by oxidation, by hydration, by carbonation. Carbonation లో ఏమవుతుంది? కార్బోనేట్స్ యాడ్ అవుతున్నాయి. హైడ్రేషన్ లో ఏమవుతుంది? హైడ్రోజన్ లో ఏమైతే వాటర్ యాడ్ అవుతుంది. ఆక్సిడేషన్ లో ఏమైతే ఆక్సిజన్ యాడ్ అవుతుంది. సొల్యూషన్ లో ఏమవుతుంది? ఇట్ ఈస్ గోయింగ్ టు బి ఇన్వాల్వ్డ్ బై ఎడిషన్ ఆఫ్ ఆక్సిజన్, హైడ్రోజన్, వాటర్ కావచ్చు, ఆర్ కార్బన్ డైఆక్సైడ్ ఎడిషన్ అవుతుంది. అంటే సో ఫైనల్లీ ద కెమికల్ వెదరింగ్ ఇట్ హస్ బీన్ ఇన్వాల్వ్డ్ or occurred with the help of by addition and removal of the elements to the main rock, and it is going to result in the chemical weathering. So this is happening a chemical weathering. This is about the rock weathering or Shilashaidilyam. Okay. This is about the physical and chemical weathering. Two types of weatherings. Okay. My class is over. Any doubts you can ask. Okay. Yeah, thank you all.